Hello everyone and welcome to another scrapbook process layout video. Today I'm going to be using the Cricut collection, which is in our current July to September catalogue, and you'll see on here that the featured colours are listed, but I'm going a little bit off on a tangent from these colours. I'm keeping the white daisy and I'm keeping Sundance, but I'm going to introduce cinnamon, rosemary and espresso because I think these colours will work quite nicely with these tones. I love that on the zip strip it lists what colours coordinate perfectly with the papers, but sometimes I like to look at it and what I have on hand and bring in some other colours. So here I think the cinnamon works really well with this leaf. The Sundance, of course, is listed. Rosemary, the tones in the leaves come out with the rosemary. And espresso I'm using instead of mocha or toffee. This is a great guide if you're wanting to exactly colour match, but with the tones in this layout, it has an almost watercolour feel. So there are light and shade to all of these images. They all look watercoloured, and I think these coloured cardstocks will work really well with this pattern paper. I'm also going to be using the gloss spray, white and gilt, and espresso ink, and of course I'm going to bring in these little dots. These are the crisp air dots, and I'm going to sprinkle some of those around. You can see here I've gone ahead and I've done a little bit of planning with this. I've got some cuts that I've done on my Cricut machine. I've taken some leaves from the You Are Here and the Flower Market collections, and I've created an overlay or a border strip, and I've done this out of Espresso cardstock, and then the colours that I've put behind with the leaves are the ones that I mentioned before: cinnamon, rosemary, shortbread and Sundance. This is cut at 11.5 inches because that's what the Cricut machine cuts to. I've got a 5.5 by 11.5 inch piece of paper, and I've created a title, and I'm going to assemble these with you, and I've got the backing pieces for that as well because I want to give a bit of a treatment to this. I've got the zip strip from this paper, and I've got a 1/2 inch piece because, as I said, it's a double page spread, and I'm going to do some paper tearing and show you an easy way of doing that. As you saw before, this piece is already assembled, but I wanted to assemble the title piece with you on camera. So you can see I've got my background pieces, and I've used the dark shade on all of these. I haven't used the light side, and I've got a title that says Autumn Days. So basically I'm just going to use some liquid glue to assemble all of these pieces together, and I'll speed this process up for you, but I do like to hold this with my tweezers, and then I can use this liquid adhesive just to run beads of that all along the letters. It doesn't take very long to do it all. You don't need to cover absolutely every portion of it, but the liquid glue gives you time to put everything in place and gives you a bit of wiggle time so that if you haven't got things quite lined up properly, you can do that. So let me speed this up so you don't have to watch the entire process of me putting the colours behind the leaves. So that process is all done, and now I'm going to bring in my splatter box because I want to add some of the white and the gilt gloss sprays to this and also to the background page. Now I know with this that my title is going to go roughly around here, and then this border is going to go around this section. So I'm going to concentrate my gold or my gilt spray up in this area and down along this area as well. So you need to give this a good shake. There is a ball inside there, and once that's all mixed, I'm going to do splatters. So I'm going to unscrew this and just start tapping this around the areas that I want the gilt to appear. So you can see that gives off a lovely gold shine, and it will be a perfect place for those leaves to rest. I've set that aside to dry, but I also want to give the same treatment to these border strips here with the leaves that are attached. So I'm going to do some gilt splashes So it's the same process as what I did before. I want to make sure that I get some of these splatters on the strip that's holding these pieces all together and also onto the leaves as well. And then I'm going to bring in the white spray and do exactly the same thing to add a little bit more texture. So I'm just going to set this aside to dry for a little bit and move on to the next treatment for the page. I'm going to bring in my Espresso ink because I want to edge distress all around this strip that's going to go across the page. And it's just a quick run over of all the edges. And when I put it down against a lighter area, I can see just how much of this I've got. I only want a subtle amount. So I'm keeping my paper nice and straight. And I'm going to do exactly the same treatment to these photo placeholders. So you can see there, I've got just a fine edge of brown or espresso ink around all the edges of those elements. When I trimmed my 2 strips to 5.5 inches, I now have an inch piece left over and I want to make a tear along this. So I'm going to do this with some controlled tearing and my water brush. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit out onto my mat, and I'm going to run a line of this where I want to do my tear. So by wetting the paper, it helps control where the paper tear is going to be, because I want to get 2 strips out of this, so I need to have a bit of control about where it's going. And I can see that I missed that little bit down the bottom, so I'll just add a little bit more. So now it's quite easy just to follow that water line all the way along to get the tear that I want. And I haven't done this exactly in half because I want a white edge on both of these. It would look a bit strange if one side has the white edge and the other side has just a normal edge to it. So I'm going to do this again and put another water strip down this section here. But you saw just by me using water that it made it so much easier to do the tearing, and that I didn't really get any bumpy lines that come out too far when sometimes you do the tearing without the water. So I'm just going to start again and follow the water line down. And this one is a little bit tricky to do because obviously I've got 2 lots of water, so I want to make sure that I get the one that's closest in here. I'm going to have this a little bit left over that is just going to be waste. I'm not going to use this piece at all. So I have 2 strips that I'm going to use across the top of the page, and then I'm going to have this peeking out. So I'm just trying to decide if I leave that as a clean edge or if I rip that as well. And I think I might leave that as a nice clean edge, and I'm just going to trim this piece in half. So I've got all my pieces done now. This is the bottom area, this is the base of the page, and I'm just going to dry fit everything and see if I'm happy with how this is going to look before I start adhering everything down. I've got this strip to go across the top, and I think I will add some of this espresso ink to that, but I'm going to wait until the paper is dry. I've got my title, and this will butt right up against here, and I've got to remember that this is the left side, so the papers are going to join in the middle, the pattern papers, and there's going to be an edge along here. I've got my photo placeholders, and this one's going to tuck under the title, and this one's going to tuck under the leaves. So I'm not going to put any adhesive on this area here so that I'm able to tuck this photo underneath. If I wanted to have this over the top, I could easily trim this off and cut this part here so that my title starts on this edge rather than having this whole entire strip on top of my photo. And then I've got my border to put on the bottom, and you can see how gorgeous the gilt spray and the white spray looks on that. And then I've got this zip strip here to tuck under this 12-inch piece. And I'm still deciding if I'm going to tear the edge or not. But I think I actually quite like it nice and flush like that rather than tearing it. I'm going to leave it straight because I've got straight edges on this area here. So I'm bringing the straight edge up here. I'm pretty happy with how everything looks here. So now all I need to do is adhere everything together. Here's the double page spread. I'd already put together some of the right page, but I need to lift this up. And because I haven't done it that long ago, I can lift this little cluster up that I've got here so that I can tuck this strip that I've got underneath it. So I just need to place that under. And adhere that down, and then I can press this back down again. I've popped this leaf here up on foam tape, and I think I might do the same for this one. So I'm just going to lift that up and bring in my thin 3D foam dots, and I'm just going to put a few of these in behind this leaf just to pop it up to match the other side. So now all that's left to do is to sprinkle around some of these gorgeous little embellishments. Now I am going to be bringing blue into this, but I know that my photos will have blue in them, so it's still going to work quite well. So how I'm doing this is taking these larger blue ones and sprinkling those around, and then I'll take some of the orangey colours. I know it looks like they're there to be sprinkled randomly, but I am purposely putting the colours that are the strongest ones out first and making sure that I have all of the colours distributed throughout this layout. So my double page spread is done, all ready for my photos. And to put the journaling in, I'll either put some lines across here and journal here, or if I've got a little bit more to say, I'll use a flip flap underneath this 3x3 photo. I really love how the gilt and the white splatters just bring these leaves to life. It really lifts them and stops them being one-dimensional, I think. Even though they've got a layer of the espresso over top, I think having the extra little bit of splatters really brings them to life. I'll put some still shots up at the end of this video, and I'll put a list with links to everything that I've used in the description below, so that if you want to have a look at what I've used, it will all be there for you. Thank you so much for watching. Happy crafting, and bye for now.